For 2 brilliant decades, he was the shadow cast upon the tall grass, the undisputed sovereign of the savannah. Leo, the name echoed power, the symbol of unshakable strength. His black, thick, scarred mane, a heavy crown of battles past. He was the king, but time, inevitably, always collects its debts, even from the Lord of the Beasts. Under the cruel, blinding glare of the setting sun, where he once roared with pride, the king fell. A severe leg injury rendered him unable to hunt, exhausted from hunger and abandoned by his own pride after his defeat. Leo was now a solitary shadow. The ancient law of the wild is merciless. Weakness immediately attracts predators. But his attackers were not the familiar hunters. They were baboons, his adversaries, his persistent pests. Led by Keto, the dominant male who harbored a bitter, personal vendetta against Leo. They encircled him, forming a mocking ring. The piercing, incessant cries of the troop sounded like an undeniable sentence, determined to end Leo's reign. Leo used his last ounce of strength, attempting to stand, but only met with excruciating pain. He collapsed, despair overwhelming him. Then Leo did something utterly unbelievable. He did not fight, nor did he roar. He surrendered. He placed his proud head down on the dusty ground and closed his eyes, completely giving up. What happened next? You would never believe the fierce yet tender truth and the profound loyalty in this final act. To truly grasp the tragedy of this moment, the surrender of a king, we must understand the burden Leo carried. His black, thick, and magnificent mane was not just hair. It was a map of honor, recording every battle won, every mortal challenge overcome. He was the embodiment of absolute power, a dominating symbol that no creature dared to question. Yet, the price of that throne was prolonged loneliness. Throughout his peak years, there was one single soul who truly saw past Leo's regal exterior, Mara. She was his longest-standing mate, the one who shared his successful hunts and the long, quiet nights on their familiar mounts. When a younger, stronger male lion defeated Leo and took over the pride, Mara, by the cruel rule of nature, was compelled to follow the new pride. But her soul, her deep connection, remained bound to the former king. She became the silent witness to his downfall, always maintaining a painful, respectful distance, watching Leo's heavy, solitary steps from afar. And today, Leo's body had completely given up. The fatal leg wound from the failed territorial defense battle had finally made him unable to hunt. Hunger and dehydration had drained all his strength, pushing him to the brink. He had collapsed openly, a clear invitation sent to the harsh wild world. This was not a temporary rest. This was relinquishment, an acceptance of the inevitable fate. Amidst this despair, Keto appeared. For most of the baboon troop, this was merely an opportunity to harass and eliminate a dying threat. But for Keto, it was personal, the settlement of a blood debt that had lasted for years. In a moment of arrogance and hunger, Leo had hunted and killed Keto's cub. That loss and the suppressed rage had never subsided in the dominant male's heart. Keto didn't just want Leo gone. They wanted to see Leo suffer, to kneel before its vengeance. The circle gradually tightened. Keto's personal grudge fueled the collective aggression of the entire troop. They were not brave. They were merely reacting to a primal call. The king was weak, and the old order must be mocked before it completely collapses. Their shrill, noisy cries were not just warnings. They were the cheers of victory for an age about to end. Collective strength versus absolute solitude. The entire baboon troop formed a living wall, besieging the dying king, ready to witness his final moments. The taunts began. It was a symphony of cruelty and glee. The baboons incessantly threw small handfuls of dirt and pebbles. Their piercing cries formed a dense sonic barrier around Leo, a stark contrast to his weak, shaky breaths. Leo tried, once more, a final desperate attempt to stand tall. His entire aging body tensed, muscles coiling beneath the loose skin, but the effort only revealed the extreme pain from the wound more clearly. A hoarse, ragged sound escaped his chest. Not a powerful roar, but a failed, painful cough. The physical pain was too immense, crushing his last fighting will. He collapsed to the ground again. It was in that moment that Leo made his final choice. Not to die in a hopeless battle, but to choose to retain his dignity in surrender. He lowered his distinguished head, allowing his thick black mane to touch the scorching dust. He closed his eyes. It was a clear signal of the end, a silent confession to the wild world. I have no strength left to fight. This was the surrender that was recorded. It was the moment of greatest weakness and vulnerability for a creature that was once the apex of the food chain. In the absolute stillness within himself, Leo drifted into memories. He no longer heard the triumphant jeers of the baboon troop or felt the burning heat of the sun. He immersed himself in the images of his glorious days, of successful hunts, and especially the moment when Mara and he shared a kill under the moonlight, their wordless yet profound connection. It was preparation for the final, dark sleep. He had let go of fear, leaving only emptiness and boundless exhaustion. Keto, completely consumed by the years of suppressed rage, moved closer. It was more than just a baboon. It was the vengeance of the past, the representative of everything Leo had done during his peak of power. Keto did not see a king. It only saw a dying former enemy. And this was its chance to deliver the final blow. A blow not aimed to kill, but to humiliate, to erase the lingering wound. The tension in the air became suffocating. Keto raised its hand, ready to strike down. By the laws of nature, the scenario should end in brutality. The enemy would have its revenge, and the king would fall. But in the wild, sometimes the existence of love and connection is what writes the final chapter, a chapter entirely different, defying all predictions. Just as Keto, eyes blazing with hatred, prepared to deliver the final, humiliating strike, an unexpected shadow fell upon the crowd. It was a sharp, decisive movement from the thicket behind. A figure emerged not with the haste of a predator, but with the steadfastness of a guardian. Mara. She did not snarl, nor did she charge in with the intention to fight. She simply walked out, slowly, dusted and tired from her long, silent journey of observation. Her appearance was not a coincidence. It was the consequence of the enduring and deep bond they shared throughout their lives. Mara walked straight in, placing her body like a solid wall between the baboon troop and her dying mate. Mara was also exhausted. She was alone, without the support of her pride. But she did not collapse. Her eyes, though weary, shone with an unshakable determination. She did not waste her precious energy on a meaningless challenge roar. Instead, Mara created a unique sound, a soft, hoarse hiss, loaded with pain, but also with protection. It was not a battle cry, but the protective growl of love, a fierce, poignant sound that could not be ignored. Keto stood frozen. Surprise and confusion dissolved the blind rage. This was no longer the easy massacre it had expected. This was a confrontation with absolute loyalty. Keto looked at Leo, then at Mara. The personal vendetta it yearned to settle suddenly became small and trivial when faced with the profound, quiet devotion Mara was exhibiting. Keto, despite being the enemy, was guided by its survival instinct and its understanding of the wild's rules to recognize something primal and sacred. It understood that continuing this siege would be futile and dangerous. A lioness's loyalty was something that violence could not defeat. Keto slowly lowered its gaze, then gently signaled the entire troop to retreat. The long and bitter siege ended not with a brutal blow, but with a silent acknowledgement. Keto led the baboon troop away, granting Leo one final, unexpected gift, dignity. The baboons turned their backs on the king they hated, simply because one lioness loved him more. The unbelievable had happened. Love had intervened, transforming a shameful surrender into a dignified rescue. The silence that enveloped the space was infinite, a powerful tranquility after the storm of jeers and hatred. The sunset was gradually descending, painting Leo's mane and Mara's face red. Leo slowly opened his eyes. He did not see the sky, nor his enemies, but only the familiar silhouette of his mate standing guard, protecting him. All tension in his body melted away, replaced by a profound relief and security. He was saved. Mara stepped closer to her king. She did not reproach or judge him for his failure. She simply bowed down, gently licking his wounds, his dusty mane, like a final act of comfort. It was the language of nature, of wordless acceptance. Then, she performed the greatest act of respect. She placed a small piece of meat, a trophy from her meager hunt, right before Leo's nose. This was not an offering for life, but a silent farewell. It was her way of saying, "You are still my king. You will not die from hunger or humiliation." The meat lay there, a symbol of sacrifice and loyalty. Leo could not eat. He only gently touched the meat with his nose, a soft gesture of gratitude and final acceptance. He looked at Mara, his eyes filled with everything he could not roar. He lowered his head for the last time, now truly at peace. Protected by the one creature whose loyalty never wavered, Leo took his last breath. As the stars began to rise over the Savanna sky, Leo, the once magnificent king, passed away in the embrace of love, granted a dignified end. The truth of this story is, Leo's surrender was not defeat. It was an act of absolute weakness, but that very weakness called forth the deepest bond he had ever created. When the world judges you by your fading strength, the gentle solution is often one. Find the Mara in your life. Find the one who sees your true worth, not your deep scars. Find the one who is willing to stand between you and the harshness of fate, not with violence, but with fierce and enduring love. If this story has moved you, if you believe in the power of loyalty that transcends all circumstances, please hit the like button and share this story. Have you ever been protected by unexpected loyalty? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to explore more stories of hope and connection in the wild next week.